mean, I launched fucking Valorant. I was planning on doing Valorant VOD reviews, and then all we've talked about is Overwatch 2. I wanted to talk about the cNed stuff as well, because while I was streaming yesterday, there was some development in the Turkish money laundering and whether or not cNed has been involved and all of that kind of stuff. And people were asking me on stream about it, but I hadn't read the full article from Upcomer, and the statement from cNed was just published earlier today as well, and stuff like that. So we talked about it a little bit on the podcast, but we didn't talk about cNed's statement. And cNed, for fuck's sake, cNed just put out their statement on the situation. Let me get the Upcomer article as well. Upcomer, cNed. There we go. So we had this. Okay, so originally, for anyone who's not aware, a bunch of Turkish players were implicated, Turkish pro players and Turkish streamers were implicated in a money laundering scandal, which weirdly was actually broken, as far as I can tell, by Jake Lucky, who does the most, the most like streamer journalism stuff usually that I can imagine. But they were the first people that I heard talking about it. So actually, credit, I guess, for being on the pulse of something genuinely important. Not that he'll do any more investigation, I'm sure, but other people will pick it up from here. Anyway, the idea being that people were stealing credit cards and then donating large amounts of bits to streamers, and then the streamers would have to send like 70% of that money back to the people who stole the credit cards. And there was some level of coercion going on, some level of persuasion going on, that it was that some people said that they thought it was legal, etc., etc. Now, cNed went onto stream and he said, I was technically involved in it. He said, I acknowledge, even though I didn't intend to, technically I got involved in this, because he said, the bit dude didn't reach out to him. He talked with my older brother. He sent me bits. I didn't report the bits, and I should have. I just took the money, and then that was it, right? So he went on stream and discussed this a little bit, and what we were talking about on the podcast was that he doesn't mention at any point what the scale of this was, and also what he was told about the legality of it or anything. Specifically from his brother, right? Because he says he doesn't talk to the perpetrators, whatever. I'm going to call them perpetrators. I don't know the better word for it, but like money launderers, essentially. He says bit dude, which I think is fucking hilarious. But anyway, he said he talked with my older brother. Now, cNed must have talked to his brother, surely, but there's no specificity about that. There's no specificity about the size of the donations given to cNed, or donation given to cNed. And then there's no comment about whether or not he split the bits and split the money. What he did say, though, was that he talked about tactics that perpetrators used to force streamers to split the money. And he said something like that happened to his friend. So there's an implication here that he did, in fact, split the money. And I also believe there's a translation of what he said on stream which changes some facts, but I think Upcomer's set to post that, so I'm going to hold off on that until they post a full article about it. Now, here was the response from cNed, where they said, I'm going to start at the bottom here. We don't condone any allegations or insults towards our players, only aimed at creating drama. To that I say, shut the fuck up. This is an incredibly important and serious topic, and it's clearly not aimed at just creating drama. You morons. And then the final one is, we recommend that people use a variety of sources for their information, as well as making sure to fact check any articles you read before making assumptions. Obviously, they're just aimed at a smear on the Upcomer article, which I disagree that Upcomer should have put a name to this 100%, even though it's just a summary of the stream translation. But nevertheless, mate, this is okay, true. It's not a variety of sources because they didn't reach out to the brother and they didn't reach out to cNed or fucking cNed for further comment or something like that. But it's good journalism. You've literally taken the cNed's Twitch comment, which could only be viewed by Turkish-speaking people, and translated it and surrounded it by the context of the scandal in which he's talking about. There's nothing wrong with this article whatsoever, and saying make sure to fact-check any articles you read before making assumptions, as far as I can tell, there are no allegations in this. Purely, it's saying what fucking he said on Twitch. So I think those two last paragraphs are so fucking petty. But now let's return to the actual meat of what they say. Misinformation, speculation, yeah, both of that. I think that's perfectly fair. People were speculating pretty heavily because cNed went on stream and talked about it, which is inadvisable if you're involved in something like this. But, I mean, players don't always make the best legal decisions. So, to clarify, cNed received one donation from an anonymous donator who has since been identified as the same account involved in the scam, as did many Turkish streamers at the time. Absolutely true that many Turkish streamers did. That is not a defense. One donation from an anonymous donator, though, is a good defense, I say, because that gives you some concept of the scale involved. Now, assuming it wasn't a multiple $1,000 donation of bits, assuming it's one reasonably sized bit donation, where it's somewhere between like $100 and $1,000, I guess, somewhere like $100-$200, something like that. Actually, yeah, it implies it's somewhere towards the small end because those are the normal size donations. If it was 1,000, that really would change things, I think. But anyway, the single donation from an anonymous donator does add really important defensive context for cNed. He also said, it was not known by cNed at the time, and we still do not know if these bits were connected in any way to money laundering or stolen funds. Now, people have pulled this up on Reddit and said that doesn't vibe with what he said, but cNed is himself probably assuming in this instance that this person was involved in dodgy business because they've been alleged to have been involved in dodgy business. cNed himself probably does not have proof that that's true. And so Ascend are just making it clear that at the moment, enough investigation has not been done to know that all of the donations from that person were involved in money laundering or stolen funds, which I think is also a very reasonable clarification to make. However, having said that, again, cNed saying, I didn't once message the bit dude, but he sent me the bits transferred to me. All of that is being interpreted by people online as if he knew at the time when the donation was made. This comment was made way afterwards, so it's very reasonable that Ascend's timeline here does make sense, where cNed gets an anonymous donation, he doesn't think anything about it, and then afterwards he realizes, oh shit, that was given to me by somebody dodgy. Maybe his brother tells him, maybe... actually, according to cNed, the person himself could not have told him. So it must have been his brother that told him later on. Or he says, as Ascend said, that they found out when, the connection of the bits to the same person involved in the scam was made after they were donated, right? And so the question is really, in what way was that information communicated to cNed? Did his brother say, oh, by the way, that was dodgy money and you've got to pay 70% of it? Because also, no point in this statement do they say whether cNed did split the money with the perpetrators. If he indeed did not report this to Twitch and chose to ignore it, if he literally chose to ignore it, then there should be no consequences. If cNed took some money from some dodgy people and then they said, yeah, well, you have to pay 70% of that back, otherwise you'll close down your channel, and he went, fuck off. If he literally just did that, essentially, his brother says, oh, by the way, you're supposed to pay some of that back, right? Like, we had a deal, didn't we? And cNed goes, we didn't have any fucking deal. Get the fuck out of my face, dank. If that was the way that things went, yeah, no problem with what cNed did, apart from the fact that he didn't report it to Twitch. But I don't hold that too much against somebody who's young and doesn't understand how the world works and just wants to duck his head underneath everything, all right? I think there's a big difference there between passively avoiding everything and actively doing it. Oh, new article. Excellent. Okay, we'll get to that in a second, because I thought that was going to drop. But here's where things get interesting, because the new article, Ascend respond to cNed unknowingly participating in Twitch money laundering. Let's have a read of this by Declan McLaughlin. His brother, Denk, admitted to interacting with the person involved in the scandal, who used the name Koju on Discord, and Denk also introduced people. He was literally the middleman between streamers and the scammer. So cNed's brother is in deep shit currently, or at least it seems like it. According to a translation provided to Upcomer, cNed said in a stream on Sunday that he received the bits and, crucially, returned half the money after being threatened by Koju through his brother with a massive donation that would suspend his channel. This, to me, changes things. It really does. This changes things because the Ascend statement indicates that he chose to ignore it, which he didn't. He chose to comply. Those are two different things. Very different things. Now, is the scale still important? Yes, the scale is still important. If cNed only did this once and then realized it was a fucking terrible idea and bailed the fuck out, yeah, I think that deserves a different punishment compared to someone who deliberately did it as much as they could for thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. There should be some nuance involved there. But this statement does not read the same way to how cNed originally on stream said that he split the money, because that is complying with their demands, not ignoring them. Anyway, so guys, you're already aware of the news. The news is obvious. The topic is known. So all of this stuff has already been included in the first article. He talked to my older brother. His statement is on Twit longer. As you see through the screenshots, I've not a single message in those. It's up to you to believe it or not. Now, just... I shouldn't be in the business of trying to defend people that have done stupid things and, in some cases, malicious things as well. I really wish people would go and fucking talk to a lawyer or talk to the organization or something before they just go on stream and waffle their mouth. Because, I mean, listen, in this instance, it seems like cNed has dobbed himself in and caused a huge amount of heat on himself, and Ascend themselves have tried to do damage control. If cNed had gone to a lawyer or gone to Ascend originally, he probably could have avoided this entire thing. Now, is that a good outcome? I suppose morally, ethically, no, that wouldn't have been a good outcome in some instances because he would have gotten away with it. But for players, it's so stupid to do this, but I suppose in this instance, it's given us more information with which to work with and find out who's at fault. No, I don't expect teenagers to understand law or how the real world works, but you'd think with esports being as advanced as it was at this point that people would get the basics, which is talk to people who can help you first. Thank you, an anonymous cheerer. Did you get that via valid sources? I'll tell you what, don't give a fuck because I'm not splitting any with you. You can give me all the money you like. Not splitting any with you. Not doing it. That guy sent me the bits. The bits transferred to me. I didn't report those bits to Twitch. I acknowledge that. I didn't report to Twitch and took the money. I repeat again, the guy did not contact me. Now, at this point, again, I'm all right with what cNed did. If you get bits anonymously donated to you and you don't report the bits, even though someone else says, I think they came from someone dodgy, mate, I don't think it's on you as a streamer to verify where those bits came from when they're anonymous and then report it to Twitch. I think it might be a good idea, but I don't think you have a responsibility to do it. Now, do you have a responsibility if your brother is involved as a fucking middleman and you know that? Yeah, probably. But as a general rule, do you have a responsibility to report any anonymous donation if some other third party told you it might be dodgy? No, I don't think you can require that of every pro player, every streamer. Would it be a good idea though? Yes, especially if you know this shit's happening in Turkey, especially if you know your brother's involved in it. Anyway, this is the next one though. According to what my older brother told me, he threatened with his routine, I'll send a huge amount of bits to your channel and cause it to shut down tactic. Hence, I was put in a position where I had to send half of the money to him. I acknowledge that even though I did not intend to, technically I got involved in this, unfortunately. Now, what I find hilarious about this, people were roasting this article by Upcomer when they didn't even include the most important damning piece of evidence from cNed's own mouth. Probably because they didn't have access to a premium translation and had to get one later on by paying for it by somebody who speaks Turkish and can translate to English really, really accurately for something like this. Thank you, anonymous cheerer. Still not giving you any money back, though. So, cNed himself admitting here that he was put in a position where he had to send half of the money to him. Now, Could you maybe get around this and say, oh, I was just put in the position where I felt I had to. I haven't acknowledged I actually did it. Could you try and weasel your way around it? Possibly, with how it's written in English. I don't know how it was originally said in Turkish, so maybe not. But frankly, the guy's not trying to lawyer his way out of this. He's said, essentially, in that sentence, that he had to send half the money to the person. And he was told from his brother literally passed on a threat to him. I mean, so fucked up. I empathize with people like cNed, though, where they're getting threatened in this situation. But of course, in that scenario, go to your organization. Go to somebody that you view as an authority figure. Please, for fuck's sake. For cNed, though, specifically, there are extra social dynamics at play here because it's literally his brother. You know what I mean? It's somebody well, I would assume it's somebody he trusts. You know, it's his older brother. He's literally named his alias after his older brother. I would imagine there's respect and love there, because otherwise you wouldn't want to name yourself after his alias. And your brother's involved in some shit, and he's telling you you've got to do this. The amount of social pressure is enormous. It is. I'm not trying to downplay that. And the amount of donations apparently is not that large. So should there be some mitigating factors in terms of the consequences? Probably, in my opinion, yeah. But also, you have to have the ability to make the right decision in a situation like this, where you're getting pressured. The threat of, I'll send a huge amount of bits to your channel and cause it to shut down. Any amount of evidence given to Twitch would counter that, man. So, his brother's a gigantic dickhead, though, isn't he? What a fucking knobhead. Might have just killed his little brother's pro career, or at least put a big fucking wedge in it. And he just contributed as the middleman to a bunch of money laundering, allegedly. Incredible. Proper fucking bell end. Anyway, I wish I could think of returning the bits. If only I could do this. By the way, spamming a channel with bits and causing it to close down is a real thing on Twitch. I know it because it happened to a friend. Twitch cuts down all the revenue. That's about it. Even though this explanation does not prove me innocent, since I technically did do something such as this. Yeah. And that's the key part. Being threatened to do it might have some level of mitigation when it comes to the consequences, when it comes to like the social pressure that was involved in him and the small scale of it. But you did comply with it, and you didn't report it, and you didn't tell anyone that it was going on, which is an obligation. Anyway, what the fuck is this? Tell us about the cheaters? What the hell? Yeah, and this is one of the other problems as well, man. If you're the kind of person like cNed, who just likes to keep their head down, avoid the drama, stuff like that, you're more likely to buckle under that level of social pressure, I think. Which is unfortunate. It really is. But he made a significantly wrong decision here. Anyway, I don't know what the hell this drama is. This drama's deep in Turkey. I don't know what this is. Some video that he's kept for 1.5 years. I don't fucking know what that is. Anyway, in a Discord message that Denk released in a twit longer about the incident, through a translation provided to Upcomer, Denk talked over getting involved with cNed, and told Koju that cNed would not like to be involved. The full translation for those screenshots is as possible. All right, but maybe his brother did attempt to stop something. Good morning, Denk. Did you talk with cNed? What did he say? Can you respond quickly? There are 24 verified streamers. This streamer, yada, yada, yada. Okay, this is actually talking about the scale involved. This streamer has 86 average viewers and 14 subs. The streamer has $53 of their own. I divided 200,000 bits into 5 days and paid them $2,000. If they can get this, cNed would get 500K. Because the bigger the streamer that you can get to, the more money you can launder through them without it looking ridiculous. Because they already get a lot of normal donations anyway. You know what I mean? So the bigger the streamer and the more income they receive that's valid, the better it looks to a money launderer, because you can launder higher amounts of money through them without it looking strange. But he said he doesn't want to launder over 2,000 bits in a month to any single streamer. So I guess that was the offer that cNed was presented with, 2,000 bits. Now, I don't know whether that means Oh, no, sorry, that's 2,000. No, sorry, that's $2,000 a month. I divided 200K bits into 5 days. It adds up to 2. Okay, I see. I do not want to risk the streamer, so I do not sell more than 200K bits in a month. Oh, sorry, 200K. Dude, yeah, no. So that's still 2,000 a month, right? So what he's saying is, I don't understand this sentence, man. He's saying he could effectively launder... Okay, I understand. He is saying he could effectively launder $5,000 a month through cNed, but he doesn't want to launder more than $2,000 a month through any streamer. Twitch cannot check every single one of them. No, but unfortunately, Twitch can get compromised, and then people can. The community can. I've been doing this job for 14 months. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I talked with cNed, and he does not want to be in something like this. We do not want to gain money unfairly. Thanks. I also think that this sentence does well by cNed, actually. I really do. Because cNed just saying on his stream, I never wanted to be involved in this, is one thing. But this is a leaked statement of a Discord message. This is a Discord screenshot from before this shit blew up. Hello, I sent 100,000 bits. Oh, there we go. Okay, so we actually have specification as well on the amounts. So hello, I sent 100,000 bits, which is $1,000. I will take 500. So it seems like with cNed, he was giving him a 50-50 split, which is better. What are you doing by yourself? Who asked you to send the bits? Did I not tell you I talked with cNed and he doesn't want to do it? Please do not talk to me anymore. I cannot work because of you. All right, send the money back next month when it arrives. Complex, isn't it? Complex. There do seem to be significant mitigating factors, though. Right? Mitigating factor number one, smaller amount of money than some of the other streamers, but at the same time, that's still $1,000. Or at least it's $500 of profit from cNed. Mitigating factor number two, the fact that it was his brother and there was social pressure involved in that. Though, frankly, it doesn't sound like his brother was pressuring him into it. But perhaps he was. That's what cNed said on stream. That he passed across the threat. And then I think the most important mitigating factor to help cNed is honestly this kind of shit at the end. Where his brother's saying he didn't ever want to be involved. Like there's Discord screenshots of him saying, I don't want to be involved in this. But at the end of the day, he did still go through with it. Yeah. cNed could have given it all back. Yeah, absolutely. He could have, right? Like he could have literally given the $1,000 just straight back instead of only 500. But he kept the money. I mean, if he really didn't want to be involved, you could very easily solve that by just keeping your head down and giving back the $1,000. Would you lose some money? Maybe, because Twitch might take like a cut of it or something, or you get taxed on it or something like that. You would lose money. But you would keep your hands clean. That would still be laundering money. Yeah, but I think it would have a different... I think there would be a moral distinction between that, though, Green Jolly Giant. Because even though you're helping this guy, even though you are helping him, because you're laundering 100% of his money instead of 50%, so in some sense you're helping him more, I think there's a moral distinction there because you're not benefiting from it. You're deliberately trying to not financially benefit. You've said you don't want to financially benefit. You're giving the money back. You're trying not to financially benefit from it, right? So even though, yes, you would be actually laundering more money for them, in the context of this and the fact that he said apparently that he didn't want to be involved, if he had given all the money back, I think that would be a positive thing, not a negative thing. But I think it's going to be very difficult to come up with a reasonable consequence to cNed's actions here. I think it's going to be very difficult. Because the fact of the matter is that he was involved and he did benefit from it. According to this translation, according to the leaked messages as well, he has been involved. But every piece of, like, every comment, every statement is that he didn't want to be involved and was pressured to be involved. And there's, like I said, additional social pressure from his brother as well. So I think you're looking for, I think you have to give out some level of consequence for this, but probably not a huge one. The issue is with champs so close, it's like a month until champs, even a short-term consequence probably means that he should be missing champs. Like, even if he only got a 1-month ban from VCT, you know, that is like a slap on the wrist. It actually ends up not being a slap on the wrist because he misses champions. I don't know. I do not envy the position of the people that have to come up with reasonable consequences to this. I do not envy those people. Twitch takes their cuts of the bits up front when the bits are purchased in the first place. Yes, but you still would have to pay tax on the revenue that you give you. So, for example, if you donated $1,000 in bits to me, I would get the $1,000, but I would still have to pay. That would still be taxable income. And so, if I gave you back $1,000, I would still. I mean, unless you counted it as a business expense or something, and so it was tax deductible. But if you just tried to, like, PayPal him back the money, it would still count on your Twitch income. You'd still lose some small percentage of it. That is completely immaterial and beside the point, though. Anyway, what's my chat saying right now? What's my chat saying? Feels like cNed is just doing things as he's told to get things over with, but money laundering is money laundering. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I also think that Ascend's statements is very aggressively defensive because they're trying to heavily damage control the situation because they want to keep cNed because he's a star talent. This is a little bit of the difference in how people are treated based on their talent in esports. If you're really, really good, people will go to bat for you to try and get you the lowest punishment possible. If cNed was some unknown player on a big organization, they'd just drop him and try and avoid all negative PR. That's the way it works in sports, right? Yeah, this is a new article. This is a new article with a more accurate translation, with much more information in it. So there's the first article, the Ascend response, and then the Upcomer article with full translation from cNed's stream. So, yeah. Green Jolly Giant, thanks for the 6 months. Wouldn't be surprised if there's an investigation that lasts 1 month so that he can still play in champs and then he gets a slap on the wrist. I mean, possibly. The question is as well, who should even be in charge of punishing him here? I think ideally it comes down to Ascend, but I can't imagine Riot being hands off, frankly. So I think Riot will end up communicating with Ascend and handing down some level of punishment. I just don't think you can have this go unpunished, especially when you have such a huge player involved to a small degree. I mean, it is a small degree. I don't think that's unfair. You have an enormous player in the Turkish scene involved to a small degree, but the actual scale of the scandal itself is fucking huge. I do think it warrants a response. Anyway. Do esports orgs do any media and legal training for their players? Traditional sports have tons of processes for avoiding these issues. Almost no esports organizations do proper media and legal training. Some try to, and I've worked with, or I've spoken to some organizations that do provide that, but it does seem to be the exception rather than the rule. If a cNed gives a punishment, that's conflict of interest. Why would that be conflict of interest? If a cNed said, we're going to bench him for 3 months, why would that be conflict of interest? You can argue that they would be too light on him, but then at that point, Riot could step in and give him a harsher one. Because they want cNed to play. Sure, but also, okay, for starters, I think Riot's going to do it anyway. But why is an org punishing their player for unprofessional behavior a bad thing? Why would that be a bad thing? I mean, for something like this, it probably should come down to Riot though. Did you see that Heretics pulled out of playing in Red Bull home grounds? No, I didn't actually. Because that player's carrying their whole existence, yeah. Yeah, I mean, they obviously would go with the minimum they thought would be acceptable. But them working with, I mean, they would have to work with Riot in this instance anyway, so, yeah. Anyway. Was this when cNed was a 16 and 20 viewer Andy? No. There's no way. I mean, read into the context of this. This streamer has 86 average viewers and 14 subs, and he gave them 200,000 bits. If they can get this, cNed would get 500,000 bits. So, at minimum, let's say this guy has, okay, well, let's actually run the math. So, times that by 2.5. So, 86 times 2.5, that's the absolute minimum amount of viewers that cNed had at the time. But I think he must have had much more when you know how this stuff works. Anyway, very disappointing situation to have such a great player tangled up in such a horrible situation. And I feel for him. I do feel empathy towards him as well, because from what this translation says, he didn't want to be involved in it. His brother was, and his brother pressured him to be involved in it, or at least his brother said to the people involved that cNed didn't want to. But once they sent him the bits, according to cNed, his brother did pressure him to get involved. I mean, this is literally cNed saying his brother pressured him to get involved. So, I feel for the guy, man. It's very difficult when you're young to try and navigate these situations properly on your own. But when you're a pro player, you're not on your own. You represent and are backed by a company who will help you with these kind of things. And you have a coach that you could talk to who's supposed to be able to help you with these situations